So broken laptop update. This laptop is no longer broken. So this is the little power supply out of it. In fact, we could probably do a little zoom in on this thing. Hang on a minute. Let's see if I can't manage that. Well, that's good enough. It's busted. Don't know what's wrong with it. I cannot find the failure point. I know what the symptom is. It's only kicking out 1 volt. But from the enclosure that it had, let's see if we can... Oh, please. There we go. 18.5 volts is what it should have been kicking out. And we were getting 1 volt, or I was getting 1 volt. It's still the high side, so you've got the main AC coming in, which is rectified over here with a diode thing, and then it goes through this transformer to drop it down to 18.5, but something in this area isn't working, but I cannot diagnose it. So instead I've just ripped it out and shoved a couple of wires on the power supply instead. So where previously we had the power hole, that's where that sort of cloverleaf, which I called butterfly connector, cloverleaf jack used to go. I've just got a couple of wires coming out because this transformer only kicked out 18.5 volts, single voltage coming out, so I can feed it 18.5 volts. Now, this sort of brings me to something else because while this is working fine, it's a Windows 95 machine. Compaq have these weird things where they keep part of the BIOS on the hard drive. And so if you don't have a hard drive in, you can't get into the BIOS. You have to use a like a Compaq Restore boot disk to even get into the BIOS. So thankfully the hard disk still works in here. There's nothing particularly wrong with it except for the drivers were sort of, everything in the BIOS was laid out so this was in the dock all the time. So it used sort of different interrupts for stuff, and there were conflicting ports, sorry, not ports, conflicting interrupts used in here for the printer port and for the mouse. So the mouse didn't work. I tried various mice because I picked up one of these thingies. You're gonna, oh, there we go. This is a PS or a USB to PS2 adapter, commonly used for sticking in USB mice to a PS2 port. However, this may be a little bit too old. So I tried a few different mice. I have one of these sort of Apple mice. That didn't work. It did power it up. So the red LED did show up, or laser, or whatever it might be. I tried my favorite mouse, which is this one, which is it IntelliPoint? Yeah, the Microsoft IntelliMouse. It's a great mouse. Really love that one. I have 2. That one doesn't seem to work in anything, sadly. I also have one of these, which is a Sun Microsystems mouse. I don't know if we can get a bit closer, if you guys have seen that logo in a very long time or never. There we go. So this one is actually has a PS2 connector on it. Turns out though, it's probably some kind of proprietary one. Because if we have a look at the bottom of these ones, it's yeah, you can see this is the Sun Microsystems one. It only has 3 pins in the outer maybe, and it looks like the PS2 one has lots of different connectors. So yeah, I've no idea how to use this Sun Microsystems one at all. Come on, there we go. Yeah, just 3 pins, unless it's broken. And then lastly, I've just got a cheap one, 3-button USB optical mouse that came with a Raspberry Pi I picked up a long time ago. This again doesn't work. So nothing actually worked in that PS2 port, but I did manage to go into the BIOS and manually change all of the interrupts. So it works now. And I can power it on if you like. Have I got my power supply on? No, but we can turn it on. So this thing is actually holding a charge as well. So I could just turn it on potentially. Let's rock this up a little bit. Sorry for how messy this is. Actually, before we carry on, there was something I wanted to show you that I was a little bit perturbed by, perhaps. So something arrived at my house, and it's this. I didn't order this. This is an adapter power supply. It's got the voltage readout on here. And it works perfectly with that ThinkPad. I've tried it out. Who sent this to me? Someone who knows my address. So I definitely didn't order it. Not only that, but this came as well, which is one of these voltmeters and ammeters, and something else if I can find it. There it is. This, which appears to be some kind of Bluetooth amplifier. But I don't think I ordered this. I don't remember doing it. I don't know how this thing works. I don't know what this massive chip is here, but we've got the Bluetooth antenna here, and then play back next, volume plus, volume minus. But there's no way to put an SD card or anything on here, so I'm not sure what it's doing. Really interesting. So if you sent this to me, please own up and then tell me what this is. But the regulated power supply is ace. I love it. Having like this, just being able to mess around on a dial, fantastic. The only problem is it's got one of these plugs, but I can take that plug off and put a UK plug on. The input is 240 volts, so we can do that. Output's 9 to 24 volts at 3 amps. It's pretty fantastic. Anyway, on with the computer. In fact, before I won't even plug this in. Let's see if we can just turn it on. Yeah, it turns out we can. You're not going to focus. Oh, it's really hard to see that, but it does say it's counting up the amount of memory. So we get 32 megabytes of RAM. Oh, you cannot have that disk. Let's see if I can't make this easier to read. I'll throw it onto manual focus and see if it's easier that way. Well, maybe. Anyway, we've got Windows 95. And do you remember how that other computer, I mean, I got all of these from the same place, so it may have been to do with the people that had it, but the other one had that Monopoly game. Do you remember? This one, it's a bit dirty. It's dusty. There's that sound. This one also has Monopoly. Oh, it's so difficult to focus on this thing. But yeah, it's working fine. We've got everything working fine, even the sound. So lots of these things I had to go off to the internet to find drivers for. The Wayback Machine for that is amazing. So I can go on like HP's old website, find out what the appropriate drivers are for this, because I think they bought out Compaq. And then I had to search on the internet for someone's old repository of files, and they had like an old FTP site up, and I could just nick it, or a directory listing all their files. Anyway, so it seems to be working, and this is running off battery right now. How incredible is that? This machine was made in 1996, I think. So we're on 70% battery. I don't imagine it's going to last very long. The current draw on this machine without a battery in it is about 800 milliamps, just sitting here. So it's pretty incredible. But if I do connect up these probes, so if I throw on, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing, you probably can't. That'll be just over here. So there's one. I know it's like super messy desk, feels like it should be really dangerous, right? And there's our positive. So just clink that on there. There'll be some kind of loss here because these aren't particularly great connections, and these probably aren't really great wires. Anyway, I'm going to turn this on. So you might hear that ramping up, I'm not sure, but the power supply is at 1.2 amps and it's started to charge the battery. And if I shut this machine down, incidentally, this is a 166 megahertz machine. I love the noise. With 32 mega RAM. It's got an ESS audio chip in it, I think. So now we're drawing about fluctuating an amp and a bit to charge this battery. Anyway, that's basically what I wanted to say. And thanks to whoever sent these things, unless I bought them and I've forgotten. But I honestly don't think I did. But after all this, like tearing this thing to pieces, my desk is now a complete mess. But that is now 3 working laptops out of all of those, and my Toshiba 200 CDS. So someone commented actually that these are fairly modern machines for DOS gaming, and they are fairly modern. You can still do DOS gaming in them, it's fine. You'll find some games might run a bit too fast, potentially. But they're all right. The Toshiba 200 CDS is like the perfect machine for it. However, it has an STN display, which is, it doesn't have a fast refresh rate, so it leaves a lot of ghosting, whereas this one is a nice TFT. So much more appropriate for gaming. But if you could use the Toshiba 200 CDS on an external monitor, then you don't have that problem. Anyway, that's it. It's just an update video. Nothing really special. And thanks to whoever sent me the stuff. Or thanks to me if I bought it and I've forgotten, but I don't think I did. Anyway, all right, I'll speak to you all later.